You think of the economic status, it's not as crucial as you think it is. And that really it's about that service of serving them well and heart to heart. That's where we got to serve is out of that place of pure love, right? If you are a female Christian entrepreneur or life coach, you need a podcast. And if you have a podcast, you need a podcast coach. Finding a supportive and empowering community is key to podcaster success. Through my holistic approach as a trained life coach and my experience in the podcast industry since 2016, I want to encourage you weekly through answering your podcasting questions. I'm cheering for you, and your voice matters. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Holistic Podcasting. I am your host, Kristin Chadwick, your podcast coach. And I have with me today a very special guest, Nicky Billou, the host of the Thought Leader Revolution podcast. He is also the author of many, many, many books out there. I can't wait to dive into more and more of your story. I think you're going to bring so much value to our podcasters today with what you have to bring to the table. So welcome to the show, Nicky.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. God bless you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I know that you have an amazing story, a backstory, and I would love for you to share that for my listeners who may not know you quite yet, but they will, because they will be hooked in on this story alone of just your growing up story of freedom.
Well, thank you. I'm originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. When I was 11 years old, the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran. And my late father, God rest his soul, could see the writing on the wall. This was not going to be a place to raise a Christian family. So what he did is he made a plan with my mom, and eventually they got us out of Iran. And we settled where I now live in Toronto, Canada. Now, at the time, 11 years old, I didn't want to leave my home. I didn't want to leave my friends. But looking back, it was the single greatest thing my father could have done for our family and his legacy. He took our family from a legacy of tyranny and despair to a legacy of freedom and hope. And I'll tell you something, as a result of that, looking back, my God, I am so grateful to him, because this made me so appreciative of all the freedoms that we have here, because this is a free society. Mm-hmm. We get to speak what's on our mind. Despite the best efforts of the godless ones to try to silence us all, this is still a free country. Mm-hmm. And because we get to speak what's on our minds, we can create businesses for ourselves. We can create the kind of life that we're seeking to have, because the good Lord made every one of us special and amazing. And he put on our heart a purpose, a mighty purpose that we're intended to discover, Amen, claim, and fulfill. Yes. And that is really the power of being a freedom-oriented individual. And the biggest influence on my life was my late father. He was the greatest man that I've ever known or will likely ever know. If you knew him, Kristin, you would just go, wow, what an amazing man. If you were trying to look for work, Dad would not just say, call so-and-so. He'd call so-and-so and 5 or 10 so-and-sos until he landed you the job. And he'd say, got you a job. You start this day. This is the pay. If you were trying to start a business, Dad would help you get that business going, including mentors, access to capital, you name it, right? That was the power of my father. And then if you were trying to buy a car or a house and you didn't quite have enough money, he'd give you a loan. So you could go and top up the money you had and buy that car or that house, and he'd never let you pay it back. Wow. And you think about that, like that is the kind of man I grew up with. And people go, no, how you talking about? This isn't real. Who does that? I go, well, the late, great Napoleon Billou does that. Who did that? Why? Well, first of all, he was a devout Christian, and he believed he'd been blessed by God Almighty, and it was his duty as a Christian to share those blessings with other people. But secondly, he did it because he could. He was successful. He had the financial wherewithal to be of service. And I'll tell you, I wanted to be like Dad. Dad would tell me, son, life, it's not about numbers or money. It's about people. Mm-hmm. It's a people game. It's not a numbers game. I'm like, whoa, Dad, but come on, business, money. He goes, listen, you have to serve people. You have to solve problems for people. And then you
Mm,
get the right to earn a profit. That is it. And remember, that person sitting in front of you, that's someone's mother, that's someone's daughter, that's someone's sister, that's someone's wife, that's someone's father, that's someone's son, that's someone's brother, that's someone's husband. They're a
mm,
hero to somebody. And they maybe have been disappointed by life, maybe even disappointed by a coach just like you who promised them everything and delivered them nothing because they were a charlatan marketer. And it's
mm,
your job to restore their faith in humanity. And my superpower, honestly, I've done podcasts, I've written books, I know about thought leadership. I got a master's degree and I graduated magna cum laude. So I'm smart. I got all this stuff and talent to deliver incredible tools, tips, tricks, and strategies. But that's not what makes me special. What makes me special, if anything does, is that I believe in people because God instructed me to believe in people. I love on people. If
mm,
you are my client, if you're a coach and you are my client, I am going to believe in you. I'm going to see the best version of you. God gave me the ability to see the best version that you could become. I'm going to pour into you. I'm going to love on you. And I'm going to believe in you and your goal more than you believe in yourself. If you make 100,000 a year and you want to make 1,000,000, I am going to stand with you and help you do that because everybody needs someone to believe in them. Everyone needs someone to pour into them. We all need that. It's what lets us get past our own fear and doubt. And because of my father, I am this way with people. And because of this, my clients, man, like it's a privilege to work with them. It's a privilege to help them. And it's a privilege to see them succeed and soar beyond what they believed is possible.
ooh, yes. I feel like I just went to church. Yes. That was so good. And it reminds me of I just came back from a podcast conference, a Christian podcast conference, where one of the speakers said, my dad was the most like Jesus I've ever met. And I was honestly blown away. Like, I've never heard anyone say that about their father. I mean, there were great things said about many fathers that I've heard, and including my own. And but I feel like that's in essence like what you're saying is that your dad had this legacy that he was not only wise and seeing what needed to happen for you and your family, but he was also very mindful of the needs of others. And what you said, serve people, then you get the right to earn profit. And that's a powerful legacy, is to believe in people, to see where what they need, their dreams, their vision of what they want to, how they want to make an impact to the world, and how you now are taking that legacy on and creating that belief and service to others to fulfill those dreams. I think that's so powerful how that really has been passed down along to you. Oh, so good. So good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we were talking about how in my podcasting space in holistic podcasting, we've been doing a series on podcast monetization. And I think it's a beautiful way to bring in what you were just speaking to. You know, if you have somebody who is a podcaster, they're listening to this and they started with this dream of like, God told me to start a podcast. I felt it. I knew exactly what it was going to be called. I pressed record. I've done all the things. Maybe I'm paying for a manager. Maybe I'm paying for somebody to edit it, but I'm really struggling to see the income. I would love for you to speak to somebody who maybe is sitting in that position where they're seeing a lack of income after taking such a brave step forward and putting themselves out there, or their business, or their ministry. What would you say to them in that situation?
That's a great question. So let's take a step back as I answer it. So, first and foremost, if you're here and you're listening to this show, I want to tell you that it's okay to be a Christian and make money either for your business or for your ministry.
Yes.
Not only is it okay, God wants you to.
Hmm.
There's a lie out there somehow that Jesus meant for you to be poor.
Yep.
That is so. Jesus was a millionaire. Jesus was a millionaire. People need to get that, right? Reverend Catherine Ponder wrote the Millionaires of the Bible series of books. Highly recommend every Christian go and buy a copy of it. One of her books is called The Millionaire from Nazareth. The Millionaire from Nazareth. Jesus was a businessman, he was a carpenter, and he was all about success because he knew that it took success to help the poor. It took success to lift people up. And so let's get past whatever crazy thoughts you got around that, okay? And if you need to have a conversation, I'll give you my calendar link. Get on my calendar link. We'll have a conversation. We'll guide you through this. Secondly, it is your duty, if you're in business or in ministry, to maximize your financial opportunity, because that's what's going to allow you to make all the dreams you have for yourself and the people you serve come true. And you've got to get past this thought that there's something wrong with marketing and selling. Now, I get it. The word sales draws all kinds of connotations up for people. Oh, no, I don't want to be one of those pushy salespeople, those slimy salespeople with commission breath. No. We're not talking about that. That model is dead. And I'm going to help you reframe that. You're not selling people, you are serving people. You reframe selling to service. You don't want to be sold, Kristin. I don't want to be sold. But don't you love being served by a caring human being, a caring advocate?
Yeah.
Don't you love it? We all love it. So you got to, just by helping people do that, Christians and non-Christians alike, because I've done that in my business for both, we have helped them double, triple, quadruple their business. I had a Christian coach who was a client of mine. This fella came in with zero income, just from moving his thoughts from I'm selling people to I'm serving people. We got him to a 6-figure year inside of a year. From 0 to 6 figures. Now, the other thing you've got to do, if you've got a podcast, is you can't just have a podcast about anything. Your podcast needs to be aimed at a group of people, an audience of people who are hurting, who have what we call a bleeding neck problem. Imagine you're a doctor. We call this the doctor frame, and someone comes into your office with a bleeding neck. What are you going to do? You're going to stop the bleeding. And as a podcaster, as a coach, as a minister, as whatever you do, you are in the business of solving problems.
Yes.
Problems, people, profit. Let me see if I got this here and I can show this to you, because this is so cool. It's going to blow you away. That's assuming I can find it. All right. It's not easily being found right now, but imagine a Venn diagram, circle on the right, circle on the left, circle on the bottom, problems in the circle on the right, people in the circle on the left, profit in the circle at the bottom. And then where all three intersect, it says purpose. P to the power of 4.
Yeah.
So you've got to understand that. Your podcast, your business, your ministry has got to be oriented to providing outcomes to people, solutions. It is not there to gratify your ego and look at how great I am. I'm such an amazing podcast coach, book coach, life coach, business coach, relationship coach, you name it, coach. No. I help people who are hurting solve this problem. It's how you should talk about yourself, your podcast, your ministry. That's how you talk.
Yes.
You do that, you're rocking. So I had a fella, he was a fitness trainer, 25 years old, good guy. You would vote for him to succeed. You met him, you had a daughter, you want her to date him, you know what I mean? He was that kind of good fellow, right? But man, when it came to business, he just didn't get it. He was like, I'm a trainer. That's what I do. How do you help people? Well, I can do anything. So I said, look, let's narrow this down. He goes, okay. I think I'm going to work with doctors. I go, okay, great. He said, why doctors? So, well, my dad's a doctor. I go, okay, promising start. And doctors make a lot of money. I go, no. That's not why we help people. It's not about the money. He goes, no, I'm doing it. 2 clients in 6 months. Didn't really work out for him. We need to change this, Danny. His name was Danny. Okay. Cardiologist. What? They make more money than doctors. No, buddy. Danny, no. It's not about the money. Danny, no, we're doing it. 1 client in 6 months. Danny, it's been a year. You got 3 clients. It ain't working. We need to change this. All right. Serendipity, the good Lord sent him a man with a missing limb, a Paralympic athlete, Papito Wilson, African-Cuban fella. They hit it off like peas and carrots, as the great Forrest Gump would say. And within a few months, he helped Papito win some medals at competitions. And he came to me, he goes, Nicky, oh my God, I'm an idiot. I'm like, I'm not going to argue with you, but why do you think so?
You
He
said
said,
it.
I've been going after the money, haven't I? I go, yeah, you have. And that's why it didn't work, didn't it? I go, yeah. He said, I should have been going after purpose. I go, yeah. I'm going to help people with missing limbs. I really know how to help them, and I want to help them. I go, that's a great idea. Within 6 weeks, Kristin, he got 400 clients. Now imagine you're a one-on-one personal trainer, and in 6 weeks, 400 people signed up with you. Your business would break. His
Right.
business broke. We had to rejigger his business. No more one-on-one training, group online coaching, right?
Yep.
He went from making $1,800 on a good month to making $100,000 on a bad month.
Wow.
By not going after the money, by serving, not selling, by having a narrow niche.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is it. That's thought leadership. That's the first thing you got to do to monetize your podcast. It's got to be oriented toward this. The second thing is you're probably not going to be Joe Rogan, so don't worry about getting huge advertisers. Yep. If it happens, it's a happy accident.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what you can do. You can use your podcast to entice people who need your help to get on your calendar and work with you.
Yes.
You can do it by giving a call to action to listeners. You can have your podcast be aimed at guests who are potential clients. You can even be a guest on shows and entice listeners to that show or build a relationship with the host.
Yeah.
I've done that, and I've generated well over 7 figures through podcasting and podcast guesting because it's old school. Why do I come on shows? Well, I come on shows, Kristin, for 3 reasons. One is I want to inspire your audience. We're living in hard times, especially for Christians. The forces of darkness and evil are upon us. They're trying to basically snuff out the message of light.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be inspired. Secondly, you as the host, I've got to make you feel, man, am I happy I brought Nicky B onto my show. That dude brought it. Man, that made me look good. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Kristin from Georgia, and I brought in the world's greatest podcast guest. Woo! Look at me. Right? And then thirdly, old school Nicky, I want a business relationship with you. People do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Yep.
I've been on over 400 shows. I've done business with almost 40 of those hosts. That would have never happened. You and I would never meet except for this wonderful thing called a podcast guest appearance. It became possible through me and you both joining Podmatch. Mm-hmm. And who knows what can happen from this. You and I could do a collaboration together. You and I could work together. I could become your client. You could become my client. That is the power of podcasting. Yeah. Not downloads and sponsors, but one-on-one, person to person, heart to heart, God to God connections.
Yes.
Let me tell you, anybody listening to this, if you're not taking notes, you better just hit pause, rewind, and start taking some notes. I give you the blueprint for 7 figures through podcasting. Are you brave enough to step forward and say, count me in, I'm doing it? Or are you going to shrink back and let your stories go, oh, no, I can't do that. I can't talk to people. I don't know. No, I can't ask for a sale. I can't do that. I can't ask them to meet. Are you kidding me? God gave you an opportunity to become successful and to fulfill his wishes. And you're saying no to the big guy?
Yeah. Yes. So good. And it reminds me of, so I just did a talk at this conference about imposter syndrome. And, it was titled, Who Am I to Start a Podcast? And it's so common to hear that feedback of, as a believer, of like this, it's just the enemy getting in your head of who are you to think that you could be successful in podcasting? Who are you to share your story? And I love flipping the script on that and saying, yes, who are you? And it's going to like your 3P Venn diagram, and then the centerpiece of like yes, this is exactly the answer to that question right in the middle. So I would encourage anybody who's listening and you heard the Venn diagram thing, literally get a piece of paper out and start writing what is the problem that you're solving, the profit, and what was the third one?
The people. Problem, people, profit.
Yes, there we go. So, and that's how you can get really clear on where Holy Spirit's guiding you of this is where we need to focus. And I love too the example of the trainer and his focus of, I mean, from the a world perspective, like, yeah, you go after the people that have the money to afford a trainer. And but that's not exactly where God wanted him to lean in. And so just taking a second and pause and think about who is it that God's called you to reach. And yeah, just taking that leap of faith that even if it's you have a call towards pastors or you have a call towards single moms, you think of the economic status, it's not as crucial as you think it is. And that really it's about that service of serving them well and heart to heart. That's where we got to serve is out of that place of pure love, right? So I love that. What else would you share with podcasters who are on this journey of monetizing their podcast? Any last remarks there?
I got a couple.
Okay.
So one is you've got to have something that you offer to solve a problem, and you've got to be selling a high ticket offer, because a low ticket offer devalues your expertise, doesn't deliver a solution to people, and disrespects God, in my opinion.
Mm,
And let me tell you why. Because when people are hurting, you need to have enough leverage on them that they're going to take it seriously. So you got to charge enough that they take it seriously.
mhm,
So I've had a client who had offers out to people, and she had a low ticket. She was a naturopathic doctor. She had a low ticket offer where time for dollars.
mhm,
Then she had a medium ticket offer where she raised her fees. And then she had a high ticket offer where she put a package together. The work was exactly the same in all three cases. So the low ticket people complained and didn't do the work. Some of the medium ticket people did the work, but they also complained. None of the high ticket people complained, and they all got a result
mm,
because their investment ranged from $100 to $20,000. And everyone who spent $20,000 on their health and well-being understood that they wanted an outcome.
mm.
They were invested.
Yeah.
Invested. If you undercharge, people aren't invested. You're hurting your clients when you undercharge. I know it's counterintuitive, but you are hurting them. So, Kristin, let's say you said to me, Nicky, you know what? I'd love to have $1 million a year business. Can you help me? Let's say we had a conversation about how to get you there and all that jazz. And you said, Nicky, man, this sounds great. I am all in. Let's do it. What's the investment? And I said, $50. You would laugh at me. You'd go, what is this guy talking about? $50. Now, if I said $50,000, you might go, whoa. But you would take me seriously as a serious provider of serious services,
Mhm,
premium services for premium clients offering a premium solution. That gets results for people.
mm,
And this is the beauty of what we did for this lady, this client. She went from a 6-figure a year business, grinding it out, to a 6-figure a month business with lots of time off and getting better results for clients.
mhm.
So if you're a Christian and you think you need, like, listen, I'm not saying don't help people who need help. Sometimes you're going to give people a deal. Sometimes you might even be called to give people a freebie, but that should not be the norm. And it should be something that you do from a place of generosity and abundance, not
Yeah.
scarcity and fear.
Mm.
You like
Okay.
that one?
Yep. Isn't it all comes back to fear or trust, right? Trusting that there is enough. And wow.
One last story to bring this airplane home with. Can I
Yeah.
tell it?
Absolutely.
So in January of 2018, a woman was introduced to us who was the country director for Canada for one of the world's oldest and largest personal and professional development firms. They've been around since the late 60s. And she was a rock star. She got people great results. But for some reason, she decided she needed help. So she brought a man on to help her run the company. And for the first year, everything was great. They saw eye to eye. They crushed it. But after a year, their visions of the future began to diverge, and there was a board of directors involved, and they kicked her out of her own company.
Mm.
Who gets kicked out of their own company? Well, there's a board of directors. It happens. Remember Steve Jobs and John Scully and Apple? Happened to Steve. And just like Steve, she spiraled for a while. She was bereft, lost. And then someone introduced her to me and my lady. I work with my beautiful better half. And if you go follow me on IG, there's a nice, lovely picture of the two of us together. So go check it out. So she was introduced to us. And we could see she was a lost soul. And we poured into her. This was a good human being. We loved on her. We helped her figure out what her ideal target market client was. We helped her figure out the problem she solved for them, how this alleviated the hell they were in. And we got her excited. We got her to charge a good price point. In her first month, she did $10,000 in income. In her second month, she did $12,000. In her third month, she did $18,000. Kristin, in her fourth month, though, she did $62,200. It was amazing. And that number will become salient in a moment. So my oldest son was 12 at the time. He's almost 18 now, 17. He plays soccer, or as I like to call it, the real football, because you actually play it with your feet. So he had a tournament in her hometown of Ottawa, which is about 5 hours away from Toronto, where I live. So I called her up because she has a son his age, and I said, hey, we're coming here for this tournament. Would you guys like to come and watch some games and grab some lunch and have some fun? She goes, yeah, let's do it. So we did that. Everybody had a great time. We won the tournament. It's always great. And we drove back home. And a few weeks later, we had one of our quarterly branded thought leader immersion workshops. This is where we work with a lot of coaches and consultants to really help them be seen as the go-to expert, the thought leader, and twofold, fivefold, tenfold, 100-fold, and in one case, 1,000-fold their income. It's kind of crazy if you think about it.
Crazy.
It's great. It's really, really great. And we were doing our back-end sales opportunity at the time. And the way I do it is, if possible, I ask my people to share their experience. I don't want to talk. I want them to talk. So I said, who would like to share? And normally people put their hands up, but not this time. This lady just bounded on stage, almost knocked me on my butt, Like, I'm like, whoa, I guess you really want to talk. She goes, yeah. I'm like, all right. So I receded into the background of the stage, and she was in the foreground, and I'm looking at her from behind. So I see her head and her shoulders, and I see her shoulders start to go like this. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I heard a sob, and like, is she crying? And like any man faced with a woman crying, the first place I went to is, what did I do? And my beautiful lady pops on stage with a box of tissues, and she gratefully accepts one. And then she turns around and she goes, Nicky, you didn't know this, but when you and your little son came to visit me and my little son said, Mommy, who are we going to go meet? You know how little boys get, right? And she said, oh, sweetie, we're going to see Nicky Billou and his son. And she says, all of a sudden, my boy became very quiet. And then he looked at me and said, oh, Mommy, are we going to meet the man who saved our family?
Oh. Woo.
So, Kristin, I am an old school Persian man. I was brought up in a very masculine culture, and I'm a very masculine man. I do not cry in public. I cry a river. You know what I mean? We hugged. Everyone's going like you went, oh, and then she keeps talking in between the sniffles and the hugs. She said, well, you didn't know this, but when we first met, the bank was about to take our home away from us. They were going to foreclose. We had not paid our mortgage in months. My husband and I, she said, we were fighting every day in front of the kids. They were scared we were going to break up. I was scared we were going to break up. But you helped me make the money to pay back the bank. We stopped fighting, and we kept our family together. Thank you. And I'm standing there. I have no words. And I realized I'm not in business just to make money. I'm not in business to gratify my ego. I'm not in business to show everybody, look at me, look at me. I'm in business because God gave me a skill. God gave me a talent. And that's to see people, to believe in them, to help them see the greatness in themselves, and to lift them up. And my job is to do this for people like this woman, Julie. I'll call her Julie. And it was an honor to do it for her. And that's what I look to do. And I tell everybody listening to your show, if you're hurting, get on my calendar. Let's talk. If you know people that are hurting, get them on your calendar. You talk to them. Your job is to serve. Your job is to do all the things we talked about earlier, specific tips and strategies around monetization, thought leadership, all of that. But fundamentally, beyond all of that, your job is to love and to serve.
Whew. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and really pouring out your heart and what drives you. It's very apparent the legacy lives on in you. And I encourage anybody to do what he's offering, and offering time to hear your story, and absolutely reach out. Again, I appreciate you coming on the show, Nicky, and you guys go check out his podcast and again, schedule time with him. All right.
To get on my calendar, go to ecircleacademy.com/appointment. That's ecircleacademy.com/appointment.
Perfect. And we'll have a link in the show notes as well, so it'll be easy to find and click. And thank you again. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. God bless you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Holistic Podcasting. Hey, if you enjoyed the show, leave a review and tell me why you loved this particular episode. I would love to hear from you, friend. And as always, happy podcasting.